So my name is Steve Stewart. My background's in music. I started managing bands when I was, well, in high school, my high school band that went through college. And then I started working for a couple management companies in college. And right when I got out of college, I worked for Ice-T's manager for about 3 years and made a bunch of, well, a couple of records with them. And guys that I grew up with, um, hit me up and they were trying to get a record deal. They were in a band called Mighty Joe Young at that point, and I said sure. I had a network of people by that point. I'd shop their tape around. It was cassette tape back in those days, and it took about a year and a half of getting every door slammed in my face and until we got some attention from Atlantic Records, and they said we're really interested. Let's make a deal. So we put a deal together and signed with them in 1992.
Mhm.
Had a record out in about, oh man, 6 months. And by the end of 92, it was gold. By the beginning of 93, it was platinum. And that record went on to sell, I think, more than 10 million units now. And the band changed their name to Stone Temple Pilots. And I managed them for 10 years. I made 5 records with them and toured the world and built
Right.
them from, zero to, I think they sold something close to 40 million records now. So it was a crazy journey. I learned a lot about music industry. I saw all aspects of it, from touring in little vans to touring in private jets. We made probably 25 music videos. We had thousands of touring dates, all from little clubs up to stadiums. I had another 20 acts that I worked with over those years, signed to pretty much every major label and every major publisher. So I became really familiar with how the industry works and some of the pain points for artists in particular. Um, and then I got into tech once the file sharing boom happened right around the year 2000,
Mhm.
with digital files. And I noticed that record labels were taking a hit because people were just sharing hard drives full of music. Your friend would say, hey, here's 4,000 songs for free. So the value of CDs and records and tapes went down to zero. And labels had to lay off staff and actually cut a lot of their rosters. And then to make up for that, they made these, they call them 360 deals. So they would take a piece of your publishing, your touring, your merchandising, your digital income. I mean, stuff that they never touched before now was all part of this deal. And those deals weren't very good. So I kind of got out of making record label deals because I didn't think it was really fair for the artist, and started looking at tech aspects of the music business. And I understood the rights space very well, music rights, and how royalties are paid through 160 different countries. They have collection mechanisms in place, and here we have ASCAP and BMI, and most countries have a hybrid governmental body that collects and licenses music usage in their territories.
Mhm.
And thought, how come this game is only played by big companies or big investors? Why
Right.
isn't it open to the public? So I started a platform called Vest, which was the first to fractionalize music rights. So instead of having to buy a $200 million catalog from Peter Gabriel, you could spend $200 and buy a very small share of those rights and see that income go down as it comes in, quarter to quarter from all those licenses around the world. Um, so we were very early with that. I think we're kind of right ahead of our time. We're in the middle of revamping that platform right now. There's a couple of other things I'm working on too. There's a company called SongHub that was developed kind of as a Match.com for songwriters. And my
Mhm.
partner Joe Berman came up with that concept because he was getting calls from songwriters in different territories saying, "Hey, can you connect me with somebody in this territory?" And he's like, "Aren't you signed to Sony?" And they're like, "Yeah, but Sony doesn't have the time or the resources to connect those people, even though it's to their benefit to have more content coming in."
Right.
So we built that, and then we thought, well, we should also put a registration module in so that once you actually create the song with somebody, you can actually register it with your publisher or your PRO, your ASCAP or BMI, or even with the US Copyright Office. And then we added a blockchain component so that tokenizes every stem that comes in. So every file that comes into your workspace has a time date stamp. So when it comes down to chain of title verification later, say the song is a hit, starts earning millions of dollars, this which happens all the time. The song may not be properly registered. Someone can come up and say, "Hey, I wrote this part of it, and I get 5%." Now you could see file one and file 151 and say, "Okay, where's your file in
Right.
this space? Because this is the whole song. And if you're not in here, you didn't contribute to it." So a lot of the lawyers and on the business management side of the labels liked it because they realized the litigation would go down and they have a clear chain of title as to who created and who wrote that song. And so we're just rolling that out now. We got a lot of attention from music schools. We're talking to Berkeley, we're talking to Full Sail, we're talking to MI, we're talking to Belmont. There's a lot of colleges that have music programs and actually media programs where they're trading media files over email. and
Hmm.
which isn't secure, isn't really organized, doesn't really help out. And the collaborative thing is what is missing in a lot of these places, because music, film, and TV, a lot of the media courses are collaborative. It's not one person making a project and turning it in. It's a group of 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 people putting a
Yeah.
film together, putting a song together, and turning that in. And they need a place to work securely together and a way to track all that stuff that comes back. So the schools are really interested. So we're working on that right now. That's going to, we should be in beta in about a month. We've had some attention, like I said, from those schools, and we're talking to them about implementing. And then, just helping consult with people. There's a couple of companies I'm consulting with on the artist rights side, on the artist, space side, where an artist can own their own data.
Mm.
There's an AI predictive company I'm working with to help promoters and touring situations, where artists can figure out what they're worth in certain markets, because it's easy to say what Drake's worth or Beyonce's worth, but much harder for a mid-level or small level artist to know how they can play in Kansas City or in St. Louis or in Miami if they've never been there. What should they price their tickets at? How much should they be getting in guarantees? And right now, with all the analytics and data that's out there, if you can take that down and put that in a cohesive package, you can actually determine value for people. So we just had a big call this morning, and there's some integrations going on with that. So super excited to get into that space. I mean, your platform's brilliant. When I saw it, I was like, this is something that people should share. The knowledge is really what's important, right? The only reason people don't do something usually is because they don't know. I place a high value on people sharing knowledge and people having access to knowledge. And I think, what you're doing is amazing. For a very, very small amount of money, you can get a very deep amount of knowledge from people that have experienced it and gone through it and lived it. And I see stuff like Masterclass. I see all these, courses and stuff, and some of them are pretty deep, but I think if you've got a very pointed question, something that you've been trying to figure out and you can't figure it out from everything you read online, talk to someone who knows, right?
Exactly.
Find access to someone who's already been down that path, someone who's already done that 100 times and knows how to do it and can give you advice and help guide you and save you years sometimes. Unless you've been in it, you really don't know. So that kind of knowledge, again, can help save millions of dollars sometimes and many, many years of working up the wrong path. That's what the value is. And when you can jump ahead of all the other noise to see that access and have that available to the general public and to musicians or anybody that's looking for that, I think is super amazing. Industry experts that have knowledge, have experience, and are willing to share that
Yeah.
for really small amounts of money. I mean, you're not going to get that knowledge or experience from a book. It's going to be hard to connect with those people in real life. So you're letting people jump ahead for the price of a couple of coffees or lunch. They're getting access. There's no other way they could get that access. So I applaud you. It's really, really important. Like you said, people want to give. They want to work with other people. And
Yeah.
for me, if there's a way to give back and help somebody, I'm all about it. And I still get calls about advice. How do I do this contract? Should I talk to this person? Should I talk to this person? I mean, you don't know, right? There's not like a class in music career management. I guess there is now. There's a couple of those programs, but one, are you going to get in that program? You spend 2 or 3 or 4 years in that program, or are you going to find a platform like yours where you can just click a button and go, hey, I have a question. Can you help me with this? And then you get an answer, right? Like that. And it's not years of your life and tens of thousands of dollars. It's a very small fraction of that to get a very detailed answer that, again, I don't think you can get that any other way. So it's important. And on the other side, on the creation side, where you've got expert players, right? It's music, something, it's a skill.
Yeah.
And to learn how to play a particular guitar lick or play something on keyboards or vocalize something, that's again something that someone can give you a tip or a hint that will get you somewhere much quicker than you trying to learn this and struggle with it for hours and hours and hours. If someone says, no, if you just finger it up here, it's a
Yeah.
little easier. Oh, I never thought of that. Boom, right? And then
Yeah.
you're hearing from someone who's already been there, done that, and has the expertise. So yeah, it's a very intriguing platform. I think there's a lot of value. I mean, it's super valuable.